In this video, I'll introduce the moral concept of earn to give, explain some reasons in favor of it, then explore some objections and responses to the practice. Let's go ahead and get started. Simply put, earn to give is the concept of making as much money as you can in order to donate it to the most effective charities, so make more to give more. This might be as simple as finding a higher paying position so that you can donate more to high impact charities, or perhaps changing professions altogether so that you will have much more income to share. Why would somebody do this? Well, ethics, that pesky branch of philosophy that tries to tell us what we should do. It turns out most moral theories look kindly on acts that help others. The concept of beneficence from Kantian reasoning and the virtues of charity, compassion, and temperance via virtue ethics all might suggest that we should be doing more to help others in need. However, the most prominent arguments in favor of earn to give come from utilitarian reasoning, citing that this might be one of the ways that you can do the most good in the world. Let's look at an argument from the Oxford philosopher William MacAskill. In 2013, MacAskill wrote a provocative article titled, "To Save the World, Don't Get a Job at a Charity, Go Work on Wall Street." As the title suggests, MacAskill claims that finding a high-paying job, such as working on Wall Street, in order to donate the majority of that income to high-impact charities is likely better for the world than you working directly for that charity. He gives three main reasons in support of this claim. Let's go over each. First is the obvious discrepancy in earnings. Working in finance will provide you with far more disposable income than if you work at a nonprofit charity. MacAskill uses the example of working at Wall Street, but the basic argument works for any high-paying profession. Since you're making so much more money in these high-paying professions, you could give enough money away to pay for 2 nonprofit workers and still yourself be making twice as much as you would be otherwise. The next reason that MacAskill gives is making a difference. If you really want to do good in the world, you want to make the world better off than it would be otherwise. So making a difference requires doing something that wouldn't have happened otherwise. To illustrate this point, he gives the following example. He says, suppose you come across a woman who's had a heart attack. Luckily, someone trained in CPR is keeping her alive until the ambulance arrives. But you also know CPR. Should you push this other person out of the way and take over? The answer obviously is no. You wouldn't be a hero. You wouldn't have made a difference. So goes in the charity sector. Charities are often people rich, but money poor. So you not working for a charity won't result in less total people working for that charity. Someone else will gladly take that job for you. On the flip side, you working in that high-paying profession won't result in more total people working in that profession. Somebody else will gladly take that job if you don't. However, that other person that would be taking that job likely won't give a sizable amount to effective charities. In fact, on average, people only give around 5% of their income, and that percentage goes down the more money you make. So by taking that high-paying job and giving far more to charities, and to high-impact charities at that, you're going to be doing far more good than what would happen otherwise if somebody else took that position. The final reason that MacAskill points to is effectiveness in charities. And he says that this is actually the most important reason, in that there is a tremendous amount of good that certain charities can do with comparatively little amount of money. The very fact that these types of charities exist currently is what makes earn to give a pretty good way of doing good in the world. You don't have to be a billionaire to save lives or cure terrible ailments. You don't have to be a doctor to do such a thing either. It costs less than $25 to cure a person of sight-destroying trachoma, for example, in various places in the world. You can literally save lives that would not have been saved otherwise by donating to these high-impact charities. Now, of course, not all charities are the same. Just because you're giving to charity doesn't mean that you're doing a lot of good in the world. So you should pick the charities that you give to carefully. Now, if you're interested in this, there are many agencies that help make this determination. The couple that I recommend is the website GiveWell and the Life You Can Save Impact Calculator. All right, so those are some of the reasons in favor of earn to give, but what does it look like in practice? Well, you could look for the highest paying profession and devote your entire career to making as much money as possible. That way you have so much more money to give to these high impact charities. Another avenue that you have available to you is just increasing the amount of money that you give to these high impact charities, no matter what profession that you are in. So it's important to note that earn to give doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job and going to Wall Street and trying to make it big. It could be as simple as just increasing the amount that you give to high impact charities on an annual basis. At this point, I want to introduce you to the organization 80,000 Hours. So 80,000 Hours is devoted to trying to help people have the highest impact of their careers as possible. And one of the avenues that they give for that is earn to give, but that's only one of many possible avenues. Since they do advocate earn to give for certain people, they also explore various objections to the practice, but also some responses to it. So let's look at some common objections to earn to give and how 80,000 Hours responds to those objections. So the first common objection is that people won't stick with this practice. So let's say you go into finance and start making a lot of money. Well, your colleagues and the people that you're going to be interacting with on a daily basis are going to be living a much different lifestyle than you are. And you perhaps are going to be influenced by that lifestyle and want to live up to those standards. So the objection is that you'll be influenced by your peers. You'll likely not give as much money that you initially planned as when you go into it. A response to this is, well, maybe you should be worried about this and try to put some safeguards in response. Making a public pledge with your intentions behind it might help ensure that you will go through with this practice in the future. However, 80,000 Hours, they stated that they were worried about this at first, but people seemed to stick with it. The people that they advised to go into this practice of earn to give, with the exception that some people will switch jobs because they think that they can have a higher impact in another profession. The next prominent objection to earn to give is claiming that many high-paying professions, such as working on Wall Street, are actually actively harmful for the world. Now, 80,000 Hours response to that is that in most cases, if you think your job does a lot of harm, well, just don't do that. In fact, if you go into a profession that you think is harmful, even though perhaps you could offset that harm by doing a lot of good with your donations, you're not likely to stick with it. You're not likely to make that highest earning potential because you're more likely to burn out. There are other higher paying alternatives, such as in medicine and engineering and so on. This leads us to the third objection, in that these high paying professions just might not be a good fit for you, that it might not be a motivating job for you. The response to this one is just that, well, maybe earn to give isn't the best avenue for everyone. There are other ways for you to make high impact with your career, even if donating less. Another option is that if one of these higher paying professions is easily available to you, try it out. Research suggests that you can become interested in more jobs than you might think. One final response to this is that perhaps you can find meaning and motivation through that donation process. That donating itself can bring life meaning and motivation to excel at your job, even if initially it's not something that you would have gone into. This leads us to the fourth objection against the practice as a whole, saying that you could have a higher impact on the world in other ways than simply giving more money. Now, the response is that, well, yeah, that might be true. This is a good option for some people, but not all people. You might be a better fit at another job where you will thrive and have more positive impact in the world. It's an important thing to note here that this practice isn't all or nothing. You could do a bit of both. You will likely still be in a position to give some money to high impact charities no matter what profession you go into, to save more lives, to help more people out. A final objection that we'll cover that my students raise often when I teach this concept in the classroom is that, well, what if everybody did that? If everyone gave such a high percentage of their income to charity, well, the economy as we know it would fall apart and, well, we would no longer be able to give to charity in the first place. What are some responses to this objection? Well, first off, you don't really have to worry about that anytime soon. Most people don't give much to charity at all, and very few that do give to charity give to these high impact charities that are doing amazing work in the world. If you go back to that concept of making a difference, as circumstances change in the world, you should make different decisions with your money. So if it turns out that tons of people start giving money to charity and these charities are no longer resource poor, well, as circumstances change in the world, how you make a difference in the world with your money also change. A key strength of this strategy is its flexibility in how you benefit the world in the future. You can easily change where you donate, what you support, or even save your money in a fund to donate in the future. So when it comes down to it, should you earn to give? Well, At the very least, if you're concerned with making the world a better place, it's an option I think you should consider. It's worth considering at least giving some to these charities that make such a large difference in the world. Do you want to give more but not sure where it will make the most difference in the world? Well, check out the following helpful resources. I left a list of links and resources below. So what do you think of the concept of earn to give? Let me know in the comments.